if we listen to the voice, we can hear a perceptual feature that we call size and a perceptual feature that we call vocal weight. So, vocal weight has to do with how literally heavy the voice sounds to our ear, and vocal size has to do with how large the speaker sounds. So, if we hear a sound that's like, you know, cartoonishly large, it might evoke sound qualities or sounds seem to sound to our ear like it's coming from a really big speaker. So, like, for example, like a cartoon giant or something. So, like,
If I were to go like fee fi fo fum, this speaker has a much larger sound.
then the sound quality. So, the thing that happens is that if we hear size,
How big the sound is, start to change. So we start here, and this is quite large. Fee fi fo fum. And I start to get smaller
and smaller
and smaller and smaller and smaller. You can hear it starts to take on a kind of like gnome like characteristic of the voice. It starts to sound like a little bit kind of like buzzy and yeah, a little weird, a little atypical.
So that sound is what we would call that kind of over full sound. By contrast, an under full sound is one where the weight,
how light the sound is, or how, as I'm slowly getting heavier, how heavy the sound is, doesn't quite match how large it is. So if I'm really large but really light, kind of like a Patrick Star kind of voice, you can hear that this voice, is really big. The size is quite large, but the weight doesn't quite match. So what I'm going to do is try to get a little heavier and a little heavier, and now you can hear that kind of like under full hollow quality has gone away, and the voice starts to sound more typical, more like what we would expect. So as you start to explore, you might want to start doing one of two things. I hear your voice is like in kind of this kind of range where it's like, it sounds like pretty typical, but it's just a little, it's got kind of like that ghost of hollowness underneath it. So you might want to get like a little heavier. Although that's probably harder. You're probably already quite heavy for how heavy you can get. Or you can start to get maybe a little smaller, actually, and then you're going to find a better balance of size and weight, and it's going to sound a little bit more typical. It won't necessarily sound quite as large, but then you're going to find a more balanced sound, and yeah, it might result in like a better overall sound quality for you. That said, honestly,
if you're only like 2.5 months on teeth, then like, I think you're gonna be fine with regard to weight. So give it a little time. Your weight's probably going to continue to develop and increase as you continue. So yeah, cool. Hopefully this clarified at least a little bit of that sound concept. And if you still have questions, let me know.